This is a big episode of You Killed It, Sheldon.
It was. It was an
Do you know why?
interesting edition of You Killed It, I'll say.
It was, but this is a big episode because I typed my notes on the computer. So I just wanted, for long-time listeners and for you, I just wanted to let you know that we'll see how this worked out for me. It was mainly because I couldn't find a piece of paper and I was comfortable on my couch, but you know, I'm still trying your way, at least for one episode.
Whatever works for you, right? And maybe you'll convert to the right side, the 2018 side, or should I say like the non-1990 side? I don't know. When did computers fully take over, or screens fully take over our world?
Oh, probably around 2000, I would say.
Yeah, something like that, right? So, it's 2018. Get it together.
My pleasure. Before we start talking about the reunion, part one of the reunion of the challenge Vendettas, let's introduce ourselves. I'm John Chidley Hill.
And I am, once again, Sheldon Alexander.
So, Sheldon, just off the top, what did you think of, just generally, what did you think of the reunion special? Because I had some general thoughts, but I wanted to know if you did too.
I just thought it was like super edited. I felt like they were ticking a lot of boxes in terms of, okay, this is something we need to talk about, but they didn't really dive into anything really, right? Like, I don't know what's left for them to talk about in the second reunion show. I mean, I guess Johnny and Natalie maybe, but I just felt that, for example, which we'll get to in depth, but I'll just say on the surface, they discussed Leroy, Tony, and Cara, but Cara didn't even say anything. And I'm sure in the actual conversation she talked, but we didn't see it. You know what I mean? So I felt like a lot of things were just heavily edited. But I get it. They probably shot for hours and hours and hours, and you got to put that into 48 minutes of television, right? So I get it.
You touched on exactly what I wanted to talk about. It seemed like they jumped around a lot.
Yeah.
Like Miz would ask a question, and I'm like, oh, like, yeah, I want to know about this. And then he'd move on to the next question. And there was even one point early on in the show where it was such a, like, sharp U-turn. I honestly thought that, like, my PVR had screwed up. Or that I had, like, somehow, missed a transition. And I, like, had to back it up. But it was... I want to say it was very early on when Miz was touching on the grenades and how Cam kept throwing them at Cara, and then suddenly Nicole was like getting after Cara about effort.
Yeah, whether she
does
tried
Cara
or not.
give 100%?
Yeah, I don't know what was going on. That was weird.
That was super weird. And I was like, what just happened? So, like, I also have to say, as a podcaster of of all things challenge related, I was like, shit, this is gonna be really hard to talk about because, like, I don't want to go over every single question.
No.
That the Miz had, because he covered like 30 topics.
Yeah, you know what? So, I kind of wrote it down as talking points, and I thought of it as, we could do like a rapid fire kind of like, do you care? Don't you care? Like, yes or no, I care. Yeah. But then also, like, do you have a quick thought on it? And then just move on to the next thing. That's what I kind of thought.
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds good.
And I just literally, and this is like, shout out again to the Dan Le Batard show, which I love. I don't know if I mentioned it on this podcast or the other podcasts I do, but I always mention the Dan Le Batard show because I'm like heavily influenced by that. One of the things they do is they claim to produce their show on the air. So like the same way that we just talked out, how do we handle this episode, right? Yeah. Like they do that all the time. And I always say it always sounds like interesting radio, but I think that it's actually fake, and they're faking it, but making it seem as if they're talking it out on air. Whereas we just did the exact same thing, right? So maybe I'm wrong about my thoughts on the Dan Le Batard show. I don't know.
Well, I will say that like live production style is heavily influenced by me being lazy and not wanting to have to edit things out. So,
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. I'll just go through. I wrote down like point form notes, and I just want you to
yeah.
say if you care or you don't care, and if you have a quick thought on it. Okay, how about that?
Oh, I'm into this. Let's do
Okay,
it.
so first thing I wrote down for the reunion show was I'm on board with the Miz. Okay, I was saying during the last season of Champs versus whoever, Champs versus Stars, I think it was. I was for the Miz. I thought the Miz did a really good job. But in the intro, I was like, why is he yelling? It just seemed weird to me. But anyways, I saw Corey and I thought, oh shit, I totally forgot about Corey.
Yeah.
Like,
He only lasted like a minute. He was on what? I mean, he was in the second wave eliminated, and on the second episode, like he was
yeah,
gone.
it was so crazy to see Corey, and it was an early reminder of just how long these seasons are because there are people I totally forgot about. But the next thing was, hold up, did I see Tori? How did she get there? Oh wait, the mercenaries are there too? That's a pretty solid check.
Yeah, I like that.
You like seeing the mercenaries,
I
yeah?
will say, yeah, I like them there. I will say I kind of creeped on Vevmo about this before it aired.
Okay.
And like for listeners who don't know what Vevmo is, it's sort of like Uber Challenge Nerds Central. So
Okay.
it's like if you're hunting for spoilers on the challenge, go to Vevmo.
Okay.
And they always have like it's actually incredible. They'll have like this shows how like rabid the challenge fan base is. People will find where current seasons of the challenge are being filmed, and they will take photos with like long distance like zoom lenses and like start listing off all the competitors, and like you can find out who is on a season of the challenge months before it airs. Like they are
See, that's too much for me.
wild.
That's too much for me.
Yeah. And I don't, and like you can find out all the spoilers, and there's like people who work on the show leaking things and stuff.
Oh.
But I did read the Vevmo on what the reunion was like, and so I knew that Jordan apparently had a lot to say. So like I knew who was present at the reunion, including the mercenaries, and I knew that Jordan in particular is and will be one of the most talkative people on the show. He had a lot on his mind.
Interesting. Yeah, Jordan and Tori appear to be going strong, it appears. So, yeah. Shout out to them. Shout out to the mercenaries. And shout out to the check they got to just basically chill. And I guess in the case of Derek, just show off shirtless selfies of your bruises. And I was like, is this really necessary? Okay, cool. The next thing on my list of topics here, the Brits.
Uh-huh.
The Brits are via satellite. Is that MTV
Yeah.
saving a check, or is that just smart work?
I think it's MTV making the right decision.
Ah,
I guess Kaylee and Melissa had some things to spout off on, but like Kyle didn't. I do have to say, and this is an interesting thing about the reunion. I find that often the reunion, not just this season but every season, changes my opinion of people. Like, I liked Kyle a lot more on the reunion, and it's not like I disliked
it's because
him
he talked less
on the show. He talks less, and he's putting on less of a performance.
Ah,
Right? Like a lot of the Kyle that you see on the show is he's not really spouting off in the house, right? Like what you see is him in the confessional, and he does that weird Geordie Shore like shouting at the camera
yeah.
style, whereas here he's just talking like a normal dude. And like I like that he got so flustered by the Miz being like, so you had to make out with Marie to realize that you're attracted to Cara Maria. I just thought that Kyle was really likable, and it was refreshing to see a person on the challenge not like just get snippy and like rhyme off one-liners. Like, he seemed very human, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, see, I go the opposite. I think that he just came off that way because he talked less, and it was just that simple. Like, he talked less, so he was less annoying. And I don't even think that he's that annoying. I just mean on scale, the less you say, the less annoying you could be. I don't know. That's just what I took away from it. I was just like, all right, Kyle, whatever. Because he's just like, and not really saying anything. I don't know.
By that logic, Shane and Corey were the most likable people on the screen, though.
Yeah, that's a thing. Shout out to Kaylee and DJ Mel, though. I wasn't mad at seeing them. Next thing on my list.
I enjoyed looking at them, but I thought Kaylee came off bad. But anyway, we can continue. I'm sure we're going to have more opportunity to talk about Kaylee.
If you listen carefully, I did say I enjoyed seeing them.
Oh.
Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Anyways, yeah, next thing on the list. So I wrote down Tony versus Bananas. Was this the biggest move of the season? Obviously, right? Tony versus Bananas. Tony making the mega move of throwing in Bananas. But to me, the best was the first little back and forth. And Devin definitely came in with a game plan to just like throw shade at Johnny, which was amazing. And I think he struck the first blow when Johnny was going at someone. Kayla, I think it was. I think he was trying to make fun of Kayla or something. And Devin just jumped in and said, well, you know what she didn't do? Lose to me. Like, it was just totally uncalled for, totally out of the blue, but a great zinger right off the bat. And hey, I'm here for it because I thought it was really funny. Well, and just this battle will continue, and I like it.
Kayla also got her shot in.
Yeah.
Because I remember what the circumstances. Johnny was being like, you did nothing this season. You did nothing. And she was like, I made a final, which is more than you.
Yes.
And Johnny was like, Whoa. And then Devin came in with and she didn't lose to me.
I mean, he was right. Right? Can't be mad at that.
They're both right. Yeah. And, I mean, this is something that drives me crazy about Johnny Bananas, especially when it comes to the challenge reunions, is he flip-flops on a lot of things that he had strong opinions on, right? Like, he's always like, it doesn't matter until, like, you've made a final. And then he tries to chirp Kayla.
It says she didn't do anything, but she made the final.
And said she didn't do anything. And, like, there's lots of people who've made it to finals by not doing anything, and it's smart political gameplay. Like, if you go through an entire season without anyone gutting for you, that's the name of the game. That's the goal.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Johnny Bananas has made a final or two without doing anything himself.
Yeah, so that's like, she did the right thing. And you're right. You're totally right, because Devin just came in with that game plan of just battering Bananas.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And what's great is there's no response, right? Like,
what can he say?
Men lie, women lie, ball don't lie. And
I like your remix. I like your remix.
Thank you. And Devin can just like hammer Johnny Bananas with the fact that he beat him. And really, nothing else matters.
Yeah, totally. Next thing on my list I got here, John, is Cam versus Cara. And, I mean, there's not really much to go off here. I mean, Cara's... Basically, the reason why this came up was because Cam used her grenades, which was the first time ever that there's been this grenade thing. And Cam used her grenades both on Cara. And the topic was, do you regret doing that? Or Cara, how does that make you feel? And you just talked about how Johnny plays both sides of the fence. And I think Cara does a really good job of that too. Because she just, she tries to come off as a sympathetic person, like I'm just so nice and I never say anything bad about people and I never do this and I never do that. You know what I mean? Like she tries to come off as like the good person while at the same time throwing out shade every once in a while, right? And she's like, well, yeah, Cam did a good job, but I guess I wish I had grenades when I was a rookie. And it's like,
yeah,
why would you say that? That's stupid. Like that doesn't even make any sense.
Stop
and like,
it.
Like it was just super lame. But it's what Cara tries to do all the time. Like, try to play the nice, sympathetic person as if she doesn't say anything negative about anyone else ever, but then hit you with some sneak disses every once in a while, right? Because that's a straight sneak diss. Like, what do you mean? Like, you didn't get any, like, get out of here. And I think the whole, was it separated by crews, like the two sides of the stage?
Yeah, I think they tried to...
Like it's vets and young bucks? Was that a thing on purpose? You know what I mean?
I think that they tried to set it up where people that they knew would argue, like, based off of the Miz's questions, were on different sides of the stage.
Okay.
Which I appreciate because it just makes for better TV.
Mm-hmm.
Because there have been a few seasons where the reunion, that people who are arguing, who are, like one's in the front row and one's in the second row, and they're like having to twist and like look at each other, and it just makes for better TV, just like structurally, visually, to have people like being able to shout at each other, and it probably helps from a security standpoint to have some distance. Like, do you remember when Knight jumped Frank?
Yep.
Yeah, like that's probably for the best.
Someone posted that in the challenge Facebook group recently, because I just recently saw that. Someone, maybe within the month, I feel like someone posted that clip in the challenge Facebook group, because I remember seeing that clip fairly recently for some reason. But you mentioned yelling and being able to argue with people back and forth. One person who didn't argue because they didn't say a word the entire time was Natalie. Am I wrong there? Like, did she say anything this entire episode?
Not that we've seen.
Like that, isn't that crazy? It's so odd. No?
I think that she was embarrassed.
Interesting.
By a lot of things on the show, and I really feel Natalie in general came into the show expecting it to be a lot more like Big Brother, and we've discussed this. She had a hard time adjusting, and I think having to be basically on a 2-hour special where people argue with each other in person is not what she was up for.
No, not at all.
And I think she probably feels like, I don't want to say that this damaged her reputation in like the greater world, but I think that it did make her rethink things about how she presents herself, right? Like I think sometimes probably spun more out of her control than she was comfortable with.
Yeah, I think sometimes it doesn't even need to go that deep. I think sometimes it could be as simple as you yourself just went home and watched yourself on TV, right? And you're watching yourself and you're like, this kind of seems weird, or this was misconstrued. This isn't really how things were supposed to go down. And it's just more based off of how you look to yourself. So now when put back in that situation, you're just kind of going to sit there and it's like, speak when I'm spoken to type thing, because she said nothing. I mean, maybe they took chunks out and they, maybe she jumped in during other people's conversations. I don't know, but we did not see any of that. And, I guess it's going to be in the next episode where they discuss, was this Johnny Bananas and Natalie quote unquote relationship fake or not, or just for the show? I guess they'll discuss that. Or maybe they don't, because, here's the other thing, right? Like, if they do come out and discuss the fact that, like, they're not going to admit that it was fake, but I feel like the way that you would have to talk about this would be Jemmy and Veronica calling it out for being super fake. And so if that's the case, you don't really want to pull behind that curtain if you're MTV, right? Because I'm sure there's people that believe that it was a real, legitimate thing, no?
Yeah. Although, I mean, it depends on if they're trying to how they want to portray both Johnny and Natalie going forward, right? Like, I don't want to say that there's been a shift in how Johnny is going to be portrayed by the producers,
Mm-hmm.
but I think in the past he's gotten a lot of sort of kind edits as the built-in producer star of the show. Yeah. And certainly, like, the Miz was in his script was being critical of Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I don't know if that's the Miz going off script, which he's certainly capable of, or if it's the Miz following things to the letter. But I don't know. It seems like there's a slight shift where they're a little sick of Johnny's shit.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting.
Which I imagine would eventually be the case. Like, Johnny has such a strong personality that even people who like him would, I think, after a while be like, still.
I don't know. I kind of go the other way. I think like this just adds more to the character. Like it adds more layers to the character. And this is kind of weird because I was up late last night and I was watching the Andre the Giant doc on HBO. I don't know if you've seen that. I know you're a big wrestling guy, so you must be either you've seen it or you're waiting to see it. I don't know. You haven't seen it yet?
I'm waiting to see it.
Okay. I watched it last night, and what you just said made me think of that because it's fresh in my mind. And you have this character, whether you're talking about Andre the Giant or Hulk Hogan, but the thing in wrestling when, you know, the good guy becomes a bad guy and they make the heel turn, right? But either way, it's still the guy being super popular. It's just another way to make him popular, kind of when the character plateaus, for lack of a better word, right? Like the hype machine kind of plateaus. So with Johnny Bananas, right? I think, you know, people taking shots at him now, it's kind of just building more life into his character because it was cool that, you know, he was kind of like the last of the cool guys, the bros left, right? And he was winning all the time, and it was like, hey, cool, and everyone likes Johnny. And I think a lot of people still do like Johnny, especially a lot of females. I think the ladies love Johnny Bananas for the most part, right? And so this is just adding to me another angle where, okay, his character can live another 2 or 3 seasons because now you got these young bucks coming up, and they're clearly just going to be going at Johnny. And I think that's way more interesting than, you know, whether it's Zach or CT or I think Wes would do a good job on the show. But, you know, some of the vets, even Darrell, who kind of come in and they just kind of like chill and just play the game, right? They're just playing the game and the competitions, whereas Johnny, you know, will give you another storyline, which will be, okay, he's almost now, it's kind of like the heel turn within the house, where he's no longer the favorite, but he's the person that everyone's trying to go at because he's been there for so long.
It's exactly what Veronica was saying, though, that Johnny is so invested in the game and vice versa that, like, when they're talking about the notes, like, that was a pure construct of Johnny Bananas, and, right? And she's like, in her words, it was just a PR move, right? Like, it was him finding a way to get on screen.
Yeah.
Right? It didn't really serve a strategic purpose within the confines of the game. I mean, you could make an argument that, like, chaos is potentially beneficial, but I think that chaos is only beneficial if you're an underdog.
Yeah.
Which Johnny is not. Right? Like, if you're in Johnny's position, from a pure game standpoint, you just want to be like, in control and calling the shots and eliminating the people that aren't in your alliance. So him doing those notes, that's just pure, like, getting on screen. He can say it was a prank and it was for fun, but it's for screen time. And she's right. He's probably plotting his next move, whatever it might be, to stay in the spotlight.
Yeah, I mean, well, he came in with a fake showmance with Natalie and also the notes, right? And you're guaranteeing storylines, but also we talk about this a lot, but from the production side, I'm like, okay, this is good if I'm the producer because this is giving me free episodes. right? It's giving me filler episodes, things to like, give me storylines during the season. So you're going to be all for that. So I kind of see both sides to it. And I think Johnny, like, I don't know. I don't know where I stand with Johnny, because I think like he provides entertainment for the show. And the thing with the notes, I think in theory, it should have been a way bigger deal in terms of like impact within the game. But I think that, as they discuss, I think Cara or someone said it, the whole Marie and Brittany thing, right? Like they were really pissed off at each other and angry at each other. And it was all about the notes, right? So like, I feel like maybe within the house and amongst the people, because I think Jemmy and Marie as well, like they started beefing over this note thing. And I think it became way more of a thing within the house. But the actual impact in terms of viewers watching, I don't think it had the same impact within the game. Like it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, right?
No. No, it didn't. And you're absolutely right that the Brittany Marie beef was purely just because of the notes.
Yeah, like
and Johnny Banana's machinations and just trying to stir shit up, and it worked. And like Cara made a point that it like tripped them all out, to the point that it tripped her out, where she wasn't even sure if she had written a note when she knew she hadn't. Like, it made her question herself.
Which is something Marie said as well when Marie was on our podcast. Remember? Marie said, I'm pretty sure Marie at one point was like, I didn't write the note, but it was so crazy because everyone was coming at me that it made her think as well. Like, did I write the note? No, I didn't write the note. You know what I mean? Like, it turned into a real big thing. And that has to suck when, you're putting together a television show and you're thinking, oh man, all this stuff's going on, but then when you're putting it together, it doesn't really have the same impact in the edit or in the like greater scheme or storyline of the show. And I think that's kind of what happened with this note thing. But hey, we'll see what Johnny Bananas comes up with next, right? We know what
we'll see what trick he has up his sleeve
for sure. We know what Leroy has coming up next, and it's probably him continuing a vendetta against Tony and Cara Maria, because we got to relive this. And even though it only happened a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I guess, Leroy calling Tony a bitch. I'm still with Leroy. Leroy sticking to his guns, and he's mad about not getting a heads up. And the real main point here, John, that I thought was cool was Leroy saying the reason why he went so hard was because he was in a position where he's sitting there having to defend himself. And like, it was weird, that whole Inquisition setup, right? And he's like, it felt weird for me having to sit here and I'm having to like explain myself in comparison to these two other guys when I feel like there should be no need for me to do it. And that's what kind of got him so, excited, or I guess over the top, or you know what I mean? And that kind of made sense to me.
Yeah.
Because I get it, right? Like he's thinking, well, this should be easy, but now you're in a position where not only do you have to say something to them, but now it's for the show. So you're probably being egged on by producers to be like, no, we need you to sell yourself. Why do you think blah, blah, blah? And you think it's self-explanatory, but it's not.
Yeah.
And now you're kind of PO'd.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm still solidly hashtag Team Leroy, and this is another example of how I like people better, or sometimes worse, depending on the person, on the reunion. I always like Tony more on the reunions than I do on the actual show. And his dispute with Leroy is an example. First of all, I thought it was hilarious when he said, "That's why I wear glasses, because you can't hit a man with glasses."
Yeah, that was funny.
And I think I find Tony's apologies really sincere. Mm-hmm. And like, I guess he could have dug deeper on the apology to Leroy.
Yep.
But I like that he said, like, it's the only thing I regret, that I should have handled that better. Like, I respect Tony's response on this.
Yeah. Yeah, I
right?
totally agree. I think Tony's response it came off as very mature. And yeah, it made Tony like a likable character because he kind of acknowledged, as you said, it was the worst thing, or it was the thing he felt the worst about that he did all season. And probably a lot of that's hindsight because Leroy ended up winning anyways. Maybe that is kind of trying to smooth things over going forward because it'll probably be easier for him to make up with Leroy than it will be for him to make up with Johnny Bananas going forward, right? So,
yeah,
I mean, I'll give Tony a little bit of credit there for sure. Next on my list, John.
Yes, I'm loving this list.
So
it's like you're used to producing television. You just know how
to. I guess so. Yes, I think so. Something like that. Yes. So, Marie and Brittany were next, right? And we kind of just touched on it. But the thing that I wrote down, actually, I always try to sneak in a hip hop reference here and there. So I wrote, "What's beef?" first off. Then, what are they really arguing about? I still don't know. Do you know what they were actually arguing about? Because it wasn't until way after that whoever it was made the point they're really pissed off about the note. But until that point, yeah. Did you understand what they were actually mad about?
Yeah, absolutely. With Marie and Brittany, yeah, I totally understand why they're pissed.
I didn't at the time when they were just like, "Well, you said this on Twitter, and you were a confessional gangster, and you like," and I was just like, "Okay, like I get why Marie and them okay." Let me start over here. I understand why in this moment they were mad, right? And okay. Like in the moment, Marie's like, "Wait a second, I'm watching this television show." And this girl that I thought I was cool with is just carving me up in confessionals. I get that part of it. I don't get the part in the actual house why Brittany just like was going at Marie. That's the part I didn't get.
I think I gather, and you're right. Neither Brittany nor Marie, but especially Brittany, they didn't really explain clearly where it came from. But I guess it came from the notes started appearing.
Yep.
Most people suspected Marie. Mm-hmm. And Marie suspected Brittany. And so, like, in the disputes of the notes, Marie, like, threw it back in Brittany's face.
Yeah, I guess that's attention.
A couple times.
Yeah.
And Brittany got super mad about that. And didn't like take it up with Marie in person. She instead was a confessional gangster,
which is a solid term,
and was just like, "Oh, that's a great I love it." Shout out to Marie for coming up with the term confessional gangster. It's the best thing since politicking. But Marie didn't know this was going on, but Brittany was running her mouth in the confessional. Mm-hmm. My problem with both of them is that, to me, this is a dispute easily solved, not on Twitter.
Yeah.
Right? Like, to me, this is a, like, you see what's going on in, like, the confessionals, and you immediately message Brittany, like, slide into her DMs and be like, "Yo, what the fuck? Like, I thought we were good.
Yeah.
And now I see you're blowing up my spot. Do we have an issue?" Like, if you care about the friendship, you say, "Do we have an issue? Let's sort it out." If not, if you don't want to save the friendship, then you go on Twitter and you say, "I'll see you at the reunion. Like, get ready to lace up."
You know what I took away from that whole conversation? I feel like that was a long ass argument. That's what I got from that. I feel like it went on for maybe 10 times longer than we actually saw, because it just seemed like they were yelling back and forth at each other. And at certain points, if you pay attention to the other people in the camera shot, they do not seem engaged at all. Right? Like, they're just kind of
I was gonna say, they sucked the air out of the room. Yeah. Like, they clearly went at each other for so long that everyone was like, "All right, let's move on." Yeah. Like, that's enough.
Yeah. Definitely one of those things, for sure. I guess we got to the injuries portion, and
yeah, I love that Cara split her chin open by doing the worm. They should have shown that.
I bet they just didn't have footage of it.
Yeah, I guess that. Yeah, they didn't really have good footage of it from what they showed
Yeah.
us.
You know what? I do remember that one episode though, because I do remember writing like, "Why does she have a bandage on her chin?" I do remember that, and it was never
I
explained. I
think you
totally
even
forgot
mentioned
about
it.
it. Yeah, totally forgot
Yeah.
about it. But yeah, that would have been a funny thing. The other thing though, if you pay attention to that scene, the little bit of footage they do have, as you know, if you listen to this podcast, I love me a club scene because I like seeing the people dance and seeing who can dance, who can't dance, and just that whole breakdown of the dynamic. So it would have been funny. You're right to see this whole worm contest that was going on. But the little bit that we did see the people getting down in the background, I thought that was pretty funny. And I may have rewound it a couple times to be like, wait, who is that? Oh, is that Marie kind of breaking it down there? Yep, it is. I see Marie breaking it down. Who else do I see in that shot right there? Well, that's kind of how I was watching the show. I know I have problems, but just know I do I do love me a club scene. I do love me a club scene. What else do we got here? More injuries. We talked about Leroy. We found out that Leroy was, after he fell, that massive fall he had in the car challenge where they had to leap from car to car. He spent 2 days in the hospital because he was knocked out cold once he hit the water. I mean, I feel like online when this happened, there were some people questioning whether or not Leroy was actually hurt or if they were playing it up.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't spend 2 days in the hospital for nothing, just for fun, right? Like, I think that puts that rumor to rest, right?
Yeah. And I don't think, I mean, one of the things that's so funny about Leroy on the show is that he's like basically the only decent human being on the show. That's not true. That's not fair. They do have some other people who have like who are pure in spirit. But
like Leroy's character,
all,
like
Leroy,
we don't know Leroy outside of the show at all, and what he
No.
does in his off time in Vegas, I'm sure it's probably pretty crazy. But in terms of a character on this show, you're right. There's very few people that come off as more genuine or more just like down to earth, and you wouldn't think that he's there trying to cut promos or like make up camera time or make, storylines for himself. Yeah, I totally see where you're going.
Exactly. So he wouldn't fake an injury and he wouldn't sell it or anything.
Yeah. We got a little discussion about Veronica's hurt finger. I forgot about that, but didn't really care about it. Did you care? No?
I mean, I think it goes to show how tough she is.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see that she and Anissa are like maybe a little bit on better terms, just the way that Anissa spoke about it at the reunion, where she was like genuinely concerned about it. But yeah, I don't know. Sort of a shit happens. I hope her hand's okay.
Veronica is like super attractive, right? And you know what? Like while this, and we'll get to this later, the whole revelation about Jemmy and Nicole, but it made me think like, at any point do we think Jemmy and Veronica were hooking up? And like, I say this because I feel like Veronica, from what happened in the prior season, they would be smart enough to like keep that on the low if that was a thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Which I didn't know. Hey, shouts to Jemmy. More power to you. Do what you do. Get in where you fit in. No problems there. But yeah, I just found that kind of interesting. I was like, ooh, it just made me think like, I wonder if Nicole's out here winning like that, is Jemmy trying to see what's going on with Veronica too, who's one of her friends? I don't know.
Well, I forget where I saw this or heard this, but Natalie and Veronica hooked up.
Oh.
On like the first night.
I missed that.
There was, I forget where I saw this, but there was somewhere, maybe it was even on the show, where Natalie said, like, I'm hurt that Johnny didn't tell me about Kaylee because I told him about me and Veronica.
I don't remember that, but dope. More power.
Yeah, there's
more
something
power to Veronica.
Yeah, Veronica's a killer. I really like Veronica. Like, I like that she just has no time for anyone. I love that she gets herself some hot ladies.
Yeah.
I love that she's just out there and it's just like real. I feel like I would really get along with Veronica. Like, I mean, if we're being honest, I think I would annoy the shit out of her, but that I would get along with her.
Yeah, she seems like cool peoples for sure. Other injuries, of course, Derek versus Joss, which people were talking about it being one of the greatest elimination rounds ever in challenge history, and we got just like mass amounts of Derek selfies of him showing off his bruises, and Joss wasn't on the reunion show because he's in LA, I guess.
Which I thought was bullshit. Like, how is he not on the reunion?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he just
like, what could he be doing that's more important? Why couldn't he Skype in like the other Brits did? Like,
yeah, I don't know.
Not that he was on the show long enough to really have like a lot of things to say, and it didn't seem like he was really involved in the drama. But just like, what the hell, Joss?
You know what? I'm actually okay. I mean, they this is gonna sound bad. They showed pictures of Joss, and I don't know what more would have been added to Joss actually being there, because he wouldn't have said much.
Well, and it just would have confused the cameras trying to tell the difference between him and Devin.
Yes, solid play by Devin. Yes, another solid play by Devin. Devin had the one-liners going the entire show.
I thought, first of all, this is a bit of a left turn here, but first of all, I thought Devin was hilarious throughout the episode. I also think that he was the best dressed man of all the contestants. Like, he came out in a suit, right?
No.
And I want to ask you, who did you think was the best dressed?
I think he's just in like a button-up shirt and jeans.
I thought he had on a blazer with it.
No, I don't remember that. I don't think so. I think you're confusing. You're just adding to your love of Devin, I think, man.
It's possible. It's possible. It might be at the point that I'm fantasizing about Devin.
Yes.
But I am curious, who did you, like, in terms of how they were dressed, in terms of reunion looks, who did you like?
It was interesting because I feel like the guys went super casual and the girls came out stunning. And I know that's normally what happens, but sometimes you do see the guys, you'll see a couple of the guys at least dress up and, add a blazer on or something, and I feel like it was all just super casual. All the guys were super, super casual. And meanwhile, the girls all looked absolutely outstanding. Suicide Squad was in full effect. Cara looked great. Natalie obviously is gorgeous. I think all the girls actually looked really good, to be honest. The guys dressed it down.
I want to give a shout out to Brittany because I feel like she really is the trailblazer in the women wearing these killer dresses to the reunion.
Interesting.
Because she had that like off the hook dress. I guess it was last season that really like started the trend, and now for this episode or for this season, they all definitely were like, I got to bring it hard at the reunion.
Yeah.
I liked that. I liked that a lot. As for the guys, I really liked the Mrs. Jacket, and Nelson always like goes for a strong look, and I think he did it really well this time. Okay. Sometimes I think he misses the mark, but I did like what Nelson was wearing, and he'd like done his hair. Like his hair was really crisp.
Yeah.
With like some lines cut in. It was good. It was good stuff.
For sure, yeah. I'll give Nelson a little bit of credit there. I think he had a tough episode. We'll get to that in a bit for sure. But let's do a little rapid fire here. Just skip through a couple topics, right? So we talked a little bit about Cara doing the worm and getting the cut on her chin, right? I love how she said she was there, like she was upset because she was there the first week trying to get laid. Now,
yeah,
that made me laugh, but also what it wouldn't it have been amazing if she had to leave because of that and she like eliminated herself because of doing the worm? Would that have constituted as the worst way to get eliminated on the challenge? You cut your own chin doing the worm.
It would be up there, although what was the name of the woman who burst her implant?
Oh.
That was pretty bad. That would be, in this case, I still think Cara's elimination, if she'd been eliminated from splitting her chin open doing the worm, would have been worse just because it was her own damn fault. Whereas with the woman who blew up her breast implant, who was that? Siobhan?
I think you're right. Yeah, it was Siobhan. I was trying to remember her name. It was Siobhan.
Oh, that is a deep cut. That's like the Ruins era. Like, that's way back. In any event, it would be up there. It'd be in the conversation or there was Dustin getting really drunk on Battle of the X's and like running and slipping and like cutting his knee open in the house while drunk.
Yep, that's pretty dumb. Pretty dumb.
Oh, and Brandon on Fresh Meat 2, where he cracked a beer before the elimination, and they're like, you can't compete after drinking. And he got DQ'd.
That's amazing. Yeah, that might be the winner, actually. That's pretty good. But there's a lot of things, and I'm sure we probably forgot about some things, too. So don't hesitate to let us know, listeners, what we might have forgot, what you guys think might have been the worst way to go out and eliminate yourself from the game.
It would have to be up there, though. Doing the worm at the bar would have to be up there.
Oh, most definitely. Definitely. Someone who didn't eliminate themselves but took out other people was Killa Cam. Killa Cam won 3 eliminations, and they discussed that a bit and just how she processed that in her rookie season. They crowned her Rookie of the Year. My question to you is, how do you compare her rookie season to Tori's rookie season?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. For some reason, Cam's felt more dominant.
Yeah, I think
just because Cam took out tougher competition.
Yeah, I think Cam had to go into more eliminations. That's a bigger thing. She had to go into more eliminations. Tori, I think, did a better job of politicking, and that's what made her survive more. Whereas Cam had to like show out in competitions or in eliminations, and that's what made her run to the final better than Tori's, in my mind, for a rookie season.
Yeah, Tori, most of her early success in her rookie season was that she was good at competitions, and but like her elimination victories weren't big. Like, she beat Marie and like stuff like that, whereas Cam, her eliminations were against legit competition, like Natalie and Tori, and who was her third person that she eliminated? It was another mercenary. Ashley M? Or Laurel?
No, it was Ashley, I think. Pretty sure it was Ashley.
In any event, they were more legit eliminations. They were real.
Yeah.
They were real barn burners.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was a super big season for Killa Cam. It wasn't. We wish we could say the same about Sylvia, who had to leave because she was sick, but not before she had an epic elimination of her own against DJ Melly Mel. And they kind of went over the whole thing that Mel was like kneeing her in the crotch. And this was one of those things where I would have loved to hear, like, did Mel even comment on that elimination at all? I don't think so. We just heard from Sylvia, right? That was weird, no?
Yeah. It was weird. And see, this is what we were talking earlier about, like having the Brits Skype in or FaceTime in, whatever. It would have been, I would have liked to have seen Mel in the room to actually discuss this.
Yeah.
She didn't really defend herself. She didn't really say, like, yeah, that was shitty of me.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see Sylvia getting her props from everyone. Like, it was unanimous that, like, Sylvia impressed everyone, and I feel like Sylvia, the next time she's on a season, people are going to be like, yeah, don't fuck with Sylvia. Like, Sylvia will bring it in an elimination.
Yeah, I want to see what happens the next season of the challenge if the full Suicide Squad is together. And I mean the full season of the challenge, not champs versus stars or whatever it's called. But I want to see, because you'd assume that if Jenna's back, Jenna would join that crew too. And you have real power in numbers with that crew right there. So if they stay together, if they all end up coming back for another season, I'll be interested to see how they perform as well. Because not only do they have numbers, but Jenna, Kayla, and Cam are really good at challenges. And Sylvia, right? So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
And don't forget, Jenna's in their crew too.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Right, like assuming that, and I hope her knee heals up, Jenna slides right into that and like makes the group 5.
Yeah, that'll be super interesting to see how that goes going forward. But then, speaking of going forward, we got into what I wrote down as hookup season, where they just talk about all the makeouts and whatever was going on during the season of the challenge. And this is where they brought back the Brits, who were, Kaylee, Mel, and Kyle. No Joss again. And they discuss Kyle getting it in. Kyle making out with Marie on the first night, which, seems so long ago now that you almost forgot about. And yes, you brought it up earlier. Kyle's line that he didn't realize he was attracted to Cara until he made out with Marie, which was amazing. But there were the revelation, which we actually broke here, which if you haven't listened to our episode where we interview Marie and Sylvia, we broke it here where Sylvia and Kyle had a solid makeout session, which they touch on here. But if you want to hear the full story, go back and listen to one of our episodes where Sylvia and Marie break down exactly what happened with the Kyle-Sylvia makeout session. Definitely go back and take a listen to that. But Kyle and Nicole, did we know about that too? Did Sylvia tell us about that too? I don't remember.
No, we did not know about it.
I feel like they kind of said that Kyle was going around the house and basically like, whoever was willing to make out, Kyle was down for it. Like, I feel like that was part of the conversation. Maybe I should go back and listen to it myself, right? But definitely it was a thing that Marie and Sylvia did talk about on that episode of You Killed It. So go back and listen to that for sure. But what did you make of this whole Kyle season, let's call it, on the challenge?
I think it's not unlike Natalie, where they both came in with certain expectations of the show based off of their previous reality TV experiences.
Yep.
And if you've ever watched Geordie Shore, Kyle was behaving at first like he was on the Geordie Shore.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Because they all it's just like 8 people hooking up with each other constantly on Geordie Shore.
Yeah.
Like, constantly. So, yeah, I don't know. It seems like it all worked out for him. Like, he got to make out with some attractive women, settled down with Cara Maria for the majority of the season, maybe showmanced his way into a final. Good on you, Kyle. And you know what? No one seemed particularly mad with him.
True. I feel like the stigma is losing the stigma on all sides, I feel like. No, like, I don't think anyone is being, to use a term, slut-shamed for hooking up with a bunch of people, right? Like, Nicole, which we'll get to for sure, Nicole, I feel like, was applauded for, I was going to say, the work she did with DJ Melly Mel and with Jemmy. She brought up that revelation that we didn't know about. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like she was more being applauded or celebrated.
Yeah.
Which, hey, again, more power to you. Get in where you fit in, right? Someone who, I was going to say, someone who didn't really get it in, but I thought that might be too weird. But here, I just said it anyways, was your boy Nelson. And
yes,
I didn't see this tweet when it happened, but Kaylee, after the show, tweeted, "Nelson was never my boyfriend. He's an obsessed lunatic." Those are some strong words to be tweeting out. So when brought to the question why she would do that, she said, well, after the show, he would call her like 20 times a day. Now,
he didn't really deny that though, which was not a great look, Nelson.
Yeah, you got to deny that. Even if it's not true, even if it's true, you got to deny that in that sense, because it's like, I mean, I don't know why you would be calling her 20 times a day. Like, that's a lot, especially in 2018, because I thought like people don't use the phone anymore, right? Like, I thought people don't call each other anymore. So to be calling someone 20 times a day, that seems a lot. Like, that's a bit much. Like, I don't know if I make 20 phone calls. Like, how long do you think it takes you to make 20 phone calls in your normal everyday life? I want to say a month. I don't think I make 20 phone calls in a month.
No. I mean, no. I guess I make a lot of phone calls at work, but that's different. That's not
your
real
life. Yeah. That's totally different. Work doesn't count. Right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, it just seemed so weird, but I felt bad for Nelson, and I guess this is a thing that, you know, is trickling down from the actual season, because I think if you go back to what we discussed while this season was going down, we kind of did a hard turn on Nelson, because before we would enjoy making fun of Nelson and the follies of Nelson, so to speak, but this season, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like we made a turn and we are kind of feeling bad for Nelson, and this kind of made me feel even worse for him, no?
Yeah, it may I agree with you, and you know what? Honestly, I liked Nelson more after this reunion.
Okay.
Again, this is what I was driving at earlier, where the reunion makes me change my opinion on some people, just because it's a little more real, because it's sort of live, like it's less edited, and I like how he conducted himself. Really, I thought Kaylee came off horrible. I thought Kaylee came across as a super bitch.
Yeah,
and I thought Nelson got off the line of the night when Miz said, like, Kaylee, I understand that you and Melissa had some issues, and Kaylee was like, yeah, because I heard this rumor that Melissa had kissed Nelson the same night that I'd kissed Nelson. And Melissa's like, no, it's not true. It was a total rumor. And then Nelson goes, why does it matter? We're not together. Just echoing what Kaylee had been saying about him all night.
Exactly.
And it was just like, it was such a knockout blow. And like the entire cast was like, oh. And it's true. Like Kaylee is a typical shitty person, where they see their shitty behavior as okay, but has no time and like will not brook any kind of criticism, but then also will be super judgmental of other people. And yeah, I mean, I felt bad for Nelson, but I thought Nelson handled himself well. And when he says that he has no feelings towards Kaylee anymore, I believe it.
Yeah, the one thing I found super weird was when the Johnny Bananas thing happens, right? And Johnny Bananas says, you know who you should really be mad at? And it's your boy Devin, because he knew about that a week before or weeks before, and he saved it and didn't tell you until it was time for him to use it in the game. You should really be mad at your boy Devin. And Johnny Bananas talks a lot of shit, but I think he might be kind of onto something there. Right? Because there's two separate things going on, right? You could tell Nelson's feelings are really hurt, right? And it's not about the gameplay. And so if that's the case, should he have issue with Devin making it about the gameplay and not telling him until it was beneficial for him within the game?
I mean, the thing is, lots of people seemingly knew.
But are lots of people friends with or let me say this, do lots of people claim to be friends even with Nelson?
No.
Right? So it's an interesting thing. And I don't know, I'm not saying what's right or what's wrong. I just thought it was an interesting point brought up by Johnny Bananas, and Devin kind of denied it, and then they just kind of moved on. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I want to hear more of this conversation.
Well, I think they're going to expand upon it, because they're definitely saving the Devin Bananas dispute as for part 2 of the reunion. And I think that I'm glad you brought up Bananas, because it was interesting that he flip-flopped. Like, he no longer denies that he and Kaylee made out.
Well, he just sort of said, why does it even matter what I did? He didn't really deny.
No, but there was one point where he's like, he acknowledged that something happened between them.
Okay.
So, it was a bad look for Kaylee. Like, she definitely took the L on this discussion. And I thought it was particularly bad when she went off on Jemmy for defending Nelson. Like, she went off the rails, going nuts on Jemmy. And that was a bad look. And when she was like, what's it matter to you? And Jemmy's like, because Nelson's my friend.
Yeah.
That's legit. Yeah. That's a legit thing to be like, no, you were shitty. You hurt my friend. That's legit to be mad at someone about.
Yeah, it's a normal human being reaction. And here's the thing, right? Like, Nelson walks that fine line a lot of coming across as being super lame, which, makes him kind of the easy target for people to rip on. But I feel like in this instance, all he's asking is like, if you're laying up and cuddling with me in my bed every night, at least let me know what I'm getting into, right? At least let me know, so that because the other thing is, we're not talking about a normal relationship outside of the house where you're asking to, like, you're not asking someone to break down every interaction they've had with someone else. You're actually on a TV show, right? So every single thing that happened within that house, within the time that you've been there, is going to be used as a storyline. So if you're now coming to me to, like, lay up in my bed, which we know that this will probably be a storyline that ends up on national TV, you should probably give me the heads up ahead of time or, like, see if I know. Not even, like, give me the heads up, but just be like, hey, so this and that went down. Especially if you know or you think that the whole Melissa thing happened, right? So you're thinking that he made out with Melissa, but you know about it. Do you know what I mean? It kind of would make sense that you would share and be like, hey, this is probably going to be a storyline on the show, but just so you know. Like, I feel like that's kind of common courtesy, right? Because you would want someone to let you know so that it doesn't come off as you're getting played as a fool on national TV.
Well, and that's generally the issue people have with each other on this season, right?
Yep.
Like, Johnny Bananas said to Tony, like, if you'd just given me a heads up that I was going on, that would have been appreciated. And Leroy being like, you guys had definitely made up your minds in advance. Mm-hmm. If you'd just given me a heads up. And the same goes with Nelson, right? Like, he's basically saying to Kaylee, like, all you had to do was tell me.
Yeah.
Like, give me a heads up and then, like, apologize.
Also, too, the way that
when you had failed to tell me, that's why she owed an apology.
Yeah, the way that he discussed, too, that it went down and she kind of just flip-flopped on the whole thing, being like, no, and then yes. Like, I could see how that would be super annoying as well. Yeah, I mean, poor Nelson again. I was saying earlier, I was talking to my cousin actually, and she asked me like, oh, what did you think of the reunion? Whatever, we were talking about it. And I was like, you know what? Maybe Nelson should be on a different reality show. Maybe he should go on like The Bachelor or something, or like, the MTV
well,
Bachelor.
He was on Are You the One?
I know, but like in that instance, there's way too many people. It needs to be Nelson and just a bunch of girls to like ensure that one of these girls will actually like Nelson and he'll like them back, at least for the season. Now, what happens after that, I don't know. But I'm just saying that I feel like his chances will be upped if it's just Nelson and like 20 girls. Because I actually feel bad for Nelson because he comes out looking like super lame and it's not even his fault. And you have like, the whole cast kind of being like, Go ahead.
Well, I think his lameness is a little bit his fault.
True. He does have to take some responsibility in this instance. Yeah. For sure.
He's such a Carlton Banks.
I mean, I feel bad for him just because Kaylee clearly didn't care. right? And I think he did care, and that sucks.
Yeah.
Um,
And he's so sensitive, and she really was not respectful. Like, as soon as she realized that they weren't on the same page, or at the very least that, like, it was getting out about Johnny Bananas, she should have, like, nipped it in the bud.
yeah, no, definitely. So after that whole Kaylee thing broke down, and Kaylee arguing with everyone and just kind of yelling and making herself look bad, things turned towards Johnny Bananas, and this is what you were talking about earlier. With I think that this is when Veronica jumped in and
Yeah.
talking about the notes and all that. Tony versus
You know, I'd
Bananas.
forgotten about the notes.
Yeah,
Like, it's funny. It's not like it's the longest season. Dirty 30 was definitely way longer. But I'd totally forgotten about the notes. I guess I sort of stopped mentioning them on the actual show. But I definitely was like, oh yeah, the notes. That was crazy.
here's the thing. I think Dirty 30 dragged on, and there was a lot of things. There are a lot of things that weren't really happening. Do you know what I mean? Like, episodes were going on, but things weren't really happening, and they kind of reused the Redemption House over and over again, and that kind of got played out. Whereas this season, I guess, might have been shorter, but there were things happening in the filler episodes, right? So, like, The Note was a filler episode. Pizzagate was a filler episode. The Kaylee blowing up, you know, or when they threw Kaylee's clothes over the railing, like, that was an episode. You know what I mean? Like, there were things happening constantly that storylines didn't really drag on more than 2 episodes, right? Like the big Killa Cam and DJ Mel fight, right? Like, so many things happen this season that not only do we forget about some of them, but it's like, oh yeah, that was really good when it happened, you know, like that was a big time episode. And so I think it was, overall, when I look back at it, I enjoyed this season a lot. I really did.
I also think that, and it's not really the show's fault because they did have to do an episode on it, but Dirty 30 was in part so draining because of that Camilla Leroy episode.
Yeah.
Which just sucked the life out of the show. And, you know, it is what it is, but it really... and also the Camilla Tony issues.
Yeah.
Which is a handy segue to finally talking about Tony putting in Bananas against Devin. It seemed to me like Bananas was genuinely hurt because of what Tony did.
Well, here's the thing,
like,
right?
I think he was invested in their friendship.
See, I go the other way. I think it, like, yes, I think on some level, yes, he's invested in their friendship, but I think Johnny Bananas, remember, we talk about, you know, he came in with all these different things, trying to produce the show while also being on the show, right? So he had all these storylines, and, okay, well, my showman's with Natalie, the new girl off of Big Brother, is going to be a thing. I have these fake notes, and that's going to be a thing. And he's really producing the show, but also, you got to think about it, right? That means that he thinks things that are going down, he sees everything coming. He sees every move. He's one step ahead of everything. And he was blindsided by that, right? Like, he kind of thought, okay, well, even if I am going in, I'll know about it ahead of time. Right? So I think, like, that was probably it. And we saw Leroy talk about that, and Johnny did acknowledge, you know, if that was what you were going to do, give me a heads up, at least give me that courtesy. I get that, and I think you're right. He is mad about the friendship side, and as my boy, you should let me know. But I think he's more mad because he thinks, I see every move coming because I'm the challenge vet. I've seen it all. I've done it all. I've literally been through it. And so I know when I'm about to go in. I know when things are heating up. And when they pulled that move, things weren't really heating up yet. You know what I mean? Like, you got to remember how confident he was, because him and Devin were going back and forth at it for a while, right? And so if you're Johnny, Tony's winning, he's winning, or Zach's winning. So he's thinking he's sitting pretty in the house. He has nothing to worry about at all, right? So I think that's what he's more mad at, just the blind side. And that caught him off guard, and he's not used to that.
Devin made an interesting point where he said that when they came into the ring, whatever they called where the eliminations happened.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? He said that it was clearly a puzzle game, and that he'd said to them, like, it's a puzzle. Like, if you're gonna shoot your shot, shoot it now.
Yep.
Because I can take them.
Makes sense.
And it's funny, like, we know that this show is super edited, but for whatever reason, they do such a good job of editing the elimination competitions that you forget that it's not just done in one take, and you forget that they have time to talk to each other between takes.
It would have been really cool.
Right?
Do you remember one season of The Real World? I don't remember which season it was, but remember they kind of showed you the behind the scenes stuff way more for one season, and you would see the camera guys, you would hear the producers like talking to the camera guys and being like, "Oh, get that shot right there," or "Try to find this." Like they showed you like that whole angle of the show as well. That would have been I forget what season of The Real World that was. I can't even remember what it was, but I remember it was really cool when they did that. But someone's going to remember, and someone's going to put it in the comments.
Skeletons or Bad Blood?
Maybe it was Skeletons, I think.
What's the season that Corey was on?
I think that's Skeletons. Oh, no.
I get confused.
I think it's Skeletons.
Explosion.
Oh, I think it is Explosions. That's what it was. Yeah. X.
It was one of
because
those
your exes
ones.
came back. Yeah. I think it was Explosions. But anyways, like, that would have been really cool to see on the challenge. You know, like in that moment, for moments like that. But again, that would be like a super tough edit and super tough to maneuver. But yeah, you're totally right. But the thing that I thought, you know, about this whole, whether it was Tony versus Bananas or Devin versus Bananas or whatever, what did you make of this? Johnny says that, you know, he looked out for Tony on every other season when real life things were going down. He had Tony's back, and it was bigger than the game. And so Tony at least owed him to the conversation before he did that. Now, I normally think Johnny is talking a lot of shit, but in this instance, I got to be honest, I actually agree with him. Like, I remember the whole thing when there's this whole thing about the guys in the confessional wouldn't talk about Tony cheating. Was it when he made out with who was it that he made out with? Was it Camilla? And the guys like actively wouldn't talk about it. Like, they made a pact with each other. Hey, we're not going to talk about this because this is going to ruin Tony's or screw up Tony's home life. Like, there was some legitimacy to what Johnny Bananas was saying. And so, do you agree with that? Do you feel that Tony at least owed him the conversation, or was the blind side better?
I think it depends on what Tony wants to do with the friendship.
Oh.
I think that if Tony's willing to sacrifice the friendship and have a better chance of winning, then don't tell him shit. But I also think that if he wants to maintain the real life friendship, he should have given him the heads up.
Here's my question, and I'm sure this is what Tony was thinking. If I tell Bananas this is what we're going to do, does he then spend like the next 24, 48 hours just like annoying the shit out of you, trying to convince you otherwise, or trying to convince you of another plan? And that's way more awkward to deal with than just being like, yep, we're good, shake on it. And then, well, I wouldn't shake on it because you're giving someone your word, and that's terrible to then go back on it. But do you know what I mean? Like, do you think that if he told them, hey man, I'm not going to change my mind, but I got to take this shot because you're the best competitor ever, and blah, 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 give him the whole sob story, and then be like, we're going to take our shot and we're going to put you in the elimination?
Yeah, you just have to take it on the chin and know that you are going to hear about it for the foreseeable future. You just have to accept, you're like, okay, I'm going to do this, and part of like the toll to be paid is that I'm going to hear about it for the next 24 hours. Like, that I'm not even going to be able to sleep, that I'm just going to have Johnny Bananas shouting at me over the kitchen table, and I just got to like bite my tongue for that period of time.
No, definitely. It was super interesting to see how that all played out, and obviously Devin was still on fire. Johnny Bananas, I'm paraphrasing here, but Johnny Bananas essentially said, uh, told Tony that he traded in a challenge legend for basically a bootleg Wes. I'm paraphrasing. He didn't use the term bootleg Wes, but he said like basically a low level Wes, I think was the term he used, which was kind of funny, but at the same time,
it's funny, but at the same time, Johnny, Wes is your greatest nemesis,
Yeah.
and both Wes and Devin have beaten you in single elimination.
yeah.
So,
Well, Devin said
you're
he's like,
defined by your enemies to an extent.
well, Devin kept repeating, right? He's like, how many times have we faced off one on one? Once. How many times have I won? Once. How many times have you won? Zero. Like, Devin was on fire this episode. I got to give Devin a lot of credit because it was really funny.
Well, and he's untouchable right now. He is untouchable in any kind of argument he has with Johnny.
Yeah, he'll hold this until Johnny comes back and either takes him out in the following season or, I guess that's what it's got to be. Johnny would have to get his revenge. Basically, what they've been doing to Corey for the past 3 seasons, Johnny would need to like change his focus and do that to Devin. But I don't know if we'll have the numbers to do it. So it'll be super interesting to see how that plays out. What did you make of the fact that Brad and Brittany are actually still together, or Bratney? What did you make?
Bratney.
Yeah. What do you make of the fact them still being together after the season was over?
I'm a little surprised, although I had seen, I guess it was a tweet from Tori, Brad's ex-wife.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was Veronica, who's also known Brad and Tori for quite a while. Someone who would be in a position to know said, I actually really see how Brad and Brittany make sense as a couple.
Oh.
Like, there was someone who was like, no, knowing Brad's personality, Brittany is more in line with like what he's about than what Tori is about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Brittany says that she's met Tori and she's really nice and she met the kids and blah, blah. And I was like, oh, this is real life. Okay, cool. Happy challenge marriage or whatever's next in their future. What I hope to see in the future, though, is more Laurel. Hi, Laurel. We got a little Nicole and Laurel talk. And any chance I get to say hi to Laurel, I'm going to say hi to Laurel.
Yeah, of course.
We found out that Nicole and Cara had a little makeout sesh, which probably didn't go well with Laurel, even though we didn't find out about it. We found out about the Jemmy hookup as well. And it was funny because Jemmy seemed really shy.
Yeah. Jemmy seemed embarrassed and like she did not want to talk about it.
Yeah, I don't even know if it was like she didn't want to talk. She just seemed like shy and she didn't know what to say. More so than like she was actively like, nope, I'm not talking about this. Like, it just seemed like she was like, I have no idea what to say in this situation, which seemed kind of like real. Like it was a real response. It wasn't like a calculated like, nope, I'm not talking about this. It was kind of like she seemed nervous, which I feel like we don't really see Jemmy like that ever.
No, we don't. And it puts into new light something she said on our interview with her.
Which, if you haven't checked that out as well, go back and find the Jemmy interview because she was outstanding. It was an amazing, amazing interview.
She was, but she said in that interview, because we asked her a question about Nicole, not knowing about their history. If it is a history, like, for all we know, they were just getting drunk and making out at the bar, which to me isn't that big a deal. But she said, Nicole falls in love with someone new each week. So, puts that into different perspective.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I don't know. I haven't had the chance to go back and listen to that episode. But maybe I should, and maybe you should too, listener.
Dun, dun, dun.
I was interested in the Nicole Laurel discussion. Laurel was not there to speak her side of things, But I found it interesting that they had broken up, in Nicole's words, because of the distance.
Yep.
And because they weren't on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that means.
Yep.
And then it went on that that Laurel didn't know she was going on the season until like the day she left.
Yep.
Which again is fine because, you know, you don't talk to your exes necessarily and tell them about your coming and going. And that Nicole regrets making out with Cara Maria, which I did feel like we saw for a heartbeat. I feel like in one of the trailers early on in the season, there was a clip of Nicole and Cara Maria kissing.
Yeah, I mean, something obviously happened, I feel like, more than just a kiss, because they were going at each other pretty hard in this reunion about Cara saying she's the best or thinking she's the best, and Cara saying she's not, and Nicole saying, yeah, I think I could beat you. I'm pretty confident I could beat you. And then Cara getting her defensive on it, as always. I never say anything like that. Like, cool, so don't say anything like that. Like, nobody said that you have to say that you're the best, but she's just telling you that she thinks she's better. Like, who cares? Right? Like, it was always, like, Cara's always very quick to be the woe is me and be all defensive and be all like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you would say such a negative thing about me. I would never say a negative thing about you, right? Like, it just always comes off as so phony and contrived all the time. But that's just me.
I know, I'm with you. I agreed with what Nicole had to say, where she was like, I was asked a question. What am I supposed to say? Like, yeah, no, if I go one-on-one against Cara, she's going to beat me. No, she, like, of course she's going to, like, feel herself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you gotta. But Nicole raised an interesting question. I have it all caps in my notes here. Nicole said quite explicitly that she thinks that she and other women on the show, and she sort of vaguely gestured towards, like, Cam, Kayla, Sylvia, Marie, like that side of the room, and said that she thinks that she and those women have surpassed Cara Maria and that they're not scared of Cara Maria.
Here's the thing.
What do you think of this?
You couldn't have surpassed her because records don't show that you've surpassed her. You know what I mean? Like, she still ends up in the finals or winning or whatever. And they might not be afraid of her or they're on the same level of her. That's a different thing. Because the one part is they consistently at least have to be going into eliminations and competing, whereas Cara seems to avoid most eliminations every single season, right? So that is a key to her success. Now, obviously, some of that is based off winning challenges, which shout out to her. You win challenges, you don't end up in eliminations. But I also think the politics angle of being a vet still works for her in the sense that the guys keep her around because they want to run the final with her because they trust her. They trust running the final with her because they know what she's capable of doing, as opposed to the wild card of what Kayla might be or what Cam might be or someone they don't know. So I agree with Nicole halfway. I agree with Nicole's statement. But you can't say that you've surpassed her because, I mean, your records don't show that. Like, she's about to win or be in first place amongst the girls, no?
Yeah, I agree with you that the stat lines don't support what Nicole's saying. Mm-hmm. But I'm interested because this isn't the first time someone has said that, right? Like, Dirty 30 and Vendettas started with Kayla getting after Cara Maria and, like, screaming, "We're not scared of you."
Yeah. No, definitely.
And it at the very least, it speaks to whatever vibe Cara Maria is putting out there, doesn't it? Like, doesn't it make it seem like...
Yeah, well, everyone always talks
she's coming out super cocky and arrogant, and everyone's being like, yo, you need to check yourself because someone's going to wreck you. When, like, once people get that opportunity to get their hands on you, And it's not unlike Johnny Bananas before Devin got his hands on him, right? Like, it seems like if there was a chance to put Cara Maria into an elimination in a coming season, one of these girls is gonna do it, and they're feeling froggy, Sheldon, and they're ready to hop.
Yeah, I just think that she has the same mentality like Johnny Bananas does or did in terms of I'm a vet, and so rookies have to pay their dues, and they're always going in. The issue, though, is that there's not that many vets on the girls' side. So it's always consistently Cara that's getting, I don't want to say the free pass, but she's getting somewhat of a pass throughout most of the season each and every time. And she kind of thinks that that's the way it's supposed to be. So whenever like the question even comes up about Cara going in, she automatically gets her back up against a wall, like, you know, kind of in the do you know who I am type thing. Like, I can't be going in yet. Like, it's too early for me to be going in, you know? And I think that's kind of the mentality that rubs the other competitors the wrong way.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to bring up, though, in the Bananas and Tony argument they're having, there's one point where Tony says, where Bananas is saying, you know, I protected you about a lot of personal things, blah, blah, and Tony says, oh, you want to go there? You want to get personal? You were talking about...
Yeah.
And he kind of alludes to something and then stops. What could he... Like, we obviously have no idea what he's talking about, but I'm kind of just throwing this out there because I'm hoping that someone, maybe one of our deep dive listeners in one of the Facebook or Venmo or whatever, Reddit groups... Someone knows what Tony is talking about or what he could possibly be alluding to. Because we like the juice, but it just made me wonder, like, what is he talking about here that could maybe keep Bananas at bay if he wants to kind of hold this grudge against Tony going forward, right?
Well, you know who knows a little something about that? Your co-host. So, there have long been rumors that Johnny cheated all the time on his ex-girlfriend Hannah. What's her last name?
No idea, but yes,
the Olympic snowboarder.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with a T. Oh, that's gonna bother me. Anyway, yeah, there were a lot of rumors that he cheated on her often, but he would always do it like he would wait till they weren't in the house. Like, he would wait till they were like at the airport or like heading back on like in the hotels when they were moving from spot to spot. Like he went to lengths to not do it where the cameras would catch him. Mm-hmm. And for a long time Johnny and Cara had super big beef because Cara like outed him, like narked on him.
Oh yeah.
And that's why, for a long time, they really, really disliked each other.
Interesting.
Was because Cara had put him on blast.
Well,
which is, you know, kind of deserving. Well, like, if you're going to be shitty, you deserve to be told you're shitty.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting, too. And, I mean, this is single Johnny, so there were rumors, too, that he and DJ Melly Mel hooked up, too, right? During this season, especially at the end when they were living that mercenary life, I guess, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. I wonder if Tony and Johnny will reconcile, if they'll ever make up. That's what I want to see. I'm interested to see how that plays out. Side note.
No,
go on.
Go ahead.
No, go on.
I was going to say, I don't think they are going to make up. I think Tony and Bananas are done. It doesn't seem like Tony was particularly remorseful. Mm-hmm. And Johnny Bananas is a grade A grudge holder. Like, he's not a dude that lets shit slide.
No, he doesn't come off that way at all.
Right? Like, think of how he handled the situation with Sarah, which was comparable. And Sarah was super apologetic and tried really hard to fix things.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And like not only did he like do her dirty, but he's been a dick about it.
Yeah.
So I don't think Johnny's is capable of letting it go.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see what ends up happening, no doubt. Also, is Johnny on Champs versus Stars?
I don't think so.
Because
No.
I hadn't seen him in the. I felt like I didn't see him in the trailer. So, I mean, yeah, I want to see what happens on the next full season because I'm sure Johnny will be back. I'm sure Tony will be back. So I want to see how that breaks down. But what do you want to do here? Do you want to talk about like who's on Champs versus Stars next week? On
Yeah,
next
let's
week's
say that for next
week's reunion show. When does Champs versus Stars start?
Next week.
Oh, it starts next week. Oh, okay. I didn't even realize that. Okay, so I guess we'll do whoever won, and then break down who's on the show next week. But I'll say this. I'll be honest. You saw the trailer, right? They played the trailer in this episode. Were you excited for Champs versus Stars before you saw the trailer? And then I'm going to ask you what you thought after you saw the trailer.
I'm not super excited.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. I don't know who most of these people are.
Okay, so
the person I'm most excited to see is Louise Hazel.
Okay.
Because we know her. Like, she is a known commodity, and we know how she does on this format of programming.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
See, I go the other way. I wasn't into, like, I was kind of like, oh, no, they're doing another season of Champs versus Stars. Like, I don't think I really care. And then I saw some of the people that were on it, and I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then I saw the trailer, and I was like, ooh, okay, I think I'm in. I think they suckered me in. I think the trailer did its job, and I'm suckered in here. And then when you really take in some of the people who are on this show, it's like Brooke Hogan, like Boobie Gibson, who used to play on the Cavs, is like just an amazing character. But they're making a hard turn and finding people from other reality shows. So they'll have and putting them on this season. And I think that this will work a lot better because when you're taking people from other reality shows, they kind of have an understanding of how these things work. Do you know what I mean? So Boobie Gibson is on one of those, like, I want to say Love and Hip Hop shows or something because he used to date a pop star. I'll do my research for next week. But Boobie Gibson used to date an R&B singer, I think. And so he was on like one of those Love and Hip Hop shows or whatever, right? Then you have, I think her name's Hennessy, but it's Cardi B's sister. She's also on this show. You have Lil Mama, who's been on a bunch of different MTV stuff. Brooke Hogan obviously had her own, Hulk Hogan's daughter, right? She obviously had her own reality show for a while. But when you're doing that and you bring them into this situation, some of the lulls that went on Champs versus Stars would be, okay, well, when they're not competing, there's nothing really going on, right? There's nothing entertaining. But now when you bring in other people that are used to being on reality shows, they kind of understand what needs to happen when it's like, okay, you guys are going to sit down and have dinner. They kind of understand what needs to happen. You know what I mean? They read between the lines of, okay, we need some drama. And the trailer gave us some dope lines. I mean, I was in for it, right? Like, you know, just a quote of, and Arian Foster, I'm interested to see too.
I'm interested because he's fresh off retirement.
Yes.
And I assume still in fantastic shape. I love it when they have these NFLers come on because NFL athletes are just on an entirely different level. So to bring these guys in, like, they can really, it's just totally different. Like, I mean, we've spoken about it at length, but imagine if Terrell Owens was like actually engaged in what the show was about. Like, he's a freak of nature, and even the first season, who are the two NFLers? Sean Merriman and who was the other one? Cam. You've never heard of him.
Cam, I can't remember his name.
You know who I mean.
But anyways, not important.
But like, they're on such a different level that it's wild.
Yeah, I mean, all I needed to hear in that trailer, all I needed to hear was Cam is falling in love with Booby. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm in. Lil Mama saying, Kayla, physically, she's a strong player. Mentally, she's a bum. I'm like, all right, I'm in. I'm a sucker. I'm easy. I can't lie.
It's kind of hard to figure out who killed it when it's just people sitting around talking. But I'll give it a go. Sheldon, who killed it for you this week?
Wow, that's a very good question. Who killed it this week? I guess the obvious answer would probably be Devin, I guess, because he was just gloating and like crazy. I think Devin would probably be the easy, most obvious answer, I guess. But you know what? I'm going to say that the ladies killed it on this episode of the challenge.
Oh.
And the reason I'm going to give it to the ladies is because, they came and made this reunion special look like it was a big deal. They dressed up. They came and showed out as if like this is a big time event. They dressed up as if it was a big time event. The dudes kind of looked like they were going to get sushi on a Sunday afternoon with their boys or something. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that everyone has to dress up. I'm not saying that at all. But I appreciate the effort that the ladies all put in to looking exceptional, to looking beautiful for this reunion show. So I'm going to say all of the ladies killed it on this episode of the challenge.
I really like that you sort of gave three answers there. I'm good. I see what you did there. I see how you scum. I'm going to go with Nelson. I'm going to go, and maybe it was the edits, but just the way that he got off that final shot to Kaylee, what's it matter, we're not together. Because it's so rare that Nelson gets to come out on top in anything in life.
Yeah, no, it was solid.
And I'm not going to go so far as to say I like Nelson, because I don't. But I am pleased to see that he's, I don't want to say redeeming himself, but that he's coming into his own. Right? Like, we've spoken about how Tony has kind of, I don't want to say rehabilitated his image, but he's standing on his own 2 feet. I'm here for seeing Nelson get to stand on his 2 feet, his own, Like,
no, I agree.
I am ready to see Nelson continue to grow and mature and also have things go his way. So, it was nice that maybe this is going to be a change. Maybe this is a moment where Nelson starts to stand up for himself and stops being so lame and turns it around. It's like the later episodes of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where you kind of start to like Carlton better than Will. I'm hoping for that.
That
I don't
never
know who
actually
Will is
happened.
in this analogy.
That never actually happened. What are you talking about?
Carlton started to become cooler towards the end of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
But nobody liked
he was
Carlton
less
more
of
than
a dweeb.
Nobody liked Carlton more than Will. Come on, that never happened. That's fake news.
I feel like there's a few episodes where you're like, no, Carlton's right.
I think we'll put it to the listeners, and they will wholeheartedly agree that nobody liked Carlton more than Will.
We'll see. Maybe I just have to rewatch Fresh Prince, which I'm happy to do.
Fair enough.
I'm happy to do. If you want to get at me on Twitter, I am at J Chidley Hill.
And you can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander, and on Instagram, follow me at Sheldon Alexander.
And as we've been recording this episode, someone tweeted, and it's lighting up Toronto sports internet, a schedule for Toronto's sports teams in the coming 3 weeks. So again, here is John's weekly warning about following both me and Sheldon on Twitter. There's a lot of sports stuff happening in Toronto coming up, and that's our lives. That's both our lives and our livelihood.
Yep.
So you're going to hear a lot about the NHL and NBA playoffs, and also Toronto FC is in the Champions League final for North America, and the Blue Jays are surprisingly competitive. So sorry in advance if you don't like Toronto sports teams.
Well, who doesn't like Toronto sports teams, right?
that would be another podcast, Sheldon.
For sure, for sure, for sure.
Anyway, until next week, this was You Killed It.
You killed it.